what you're telling me. The broken can be beautiful again. The broken can be beautiful.
Hi, I'm Tracy.
And I'm Destiny.
This is a podcast for NICU parents, created by NICU parents.
Where tiny beginnings grow into hope through stories.
Because every ounce is a victory and every story matters.
Today, we're honored to sit down with Ashley. Her son Coy was born at just 22 weeks and 3 days, a true micro-preemie miracle. Ashley has walked through the NICU holding heartbreak, hope, grief, and gratitude.
Today, she's here to share what that journey has looked like for her family, how Coy continues to inspire her, and how she carries the memory of his twin.
Ashley, thank you for being here and for your courage in sharing both your grief and your joy. To start, can you tell us a little bit about your pregnancy with the twins and what those early days were like?
Thanks for having me. I got pregnant via IVF, so I had a fertility journey prior to my NICU journey. They were twins intentionally. There were 2 embryos placed back. There was not one embryo that split. My pregnancy was pretty normal initially, and I ended up feeling some pain, discomfort, some discharge, and no one really listened to me initially. And I ended up having an infection, and I think that's how I ended up going into the early labor.
Do they know what infection it was?
I think it might have been BV. It was something small.
Yeah, okay.
So what was it like emotionally preparing for twins and then being faced with such an early delivery?
We were really excited buying 2 of everything, like the outfits, the cribs, like everything. 2 of everything. It was really exciting. When I got to the hospital, because I had went into labor early, ultimately it's been decided like, hey, she's really in labor. They tried to send me home, actually. They were not willing to give me steroids to help them because I was so premature. Well, like so early in the delivery. They had pretty much said that the boys wouldn't make it. And they didn't want to waste the medication on them. I needed to hold them in for another 3 days. And if I could do that, then they would give me steroids to help their lungs so they could be born prematurely.
Oh my goodness. So did you make it the 3 days?
I did not. I went into labor, I think it was they were born on a Sunday. I went into labor on a Friday. They stopped the labor, sent me home, came back in, and my water had actually broken at home. They confirmed my water broke, and that's when they were like, there's nothing they can do. I could terminate the pregnancy. And I refused. And I told them that I was not leaving the hospital. And they put me over in this hideous room. It was like some section of the mother baby unit. It was awful. It was like prison. Like, I swear those walls were off. There was nothing cheery about that section of the hospital or anything. But nonetheless, I was over there. And I think I made it like a full day. And they couldn't even tell I was in labor.
Wow. Can you walk us through the day of their birth? And what do you remember about those moments?
They were born really early in the morning. So Kai's twin A, Coy is twin B. Oh my goodness. They were born like 1:25 and 3:14 in the morning. So my delivery was bright and early. There was no sun. When Kai was born, he was born a regular vaginal birth. He was moving. Everyone was shocked. The room was filled with 2 teams of NICU professionals ready to do whatever for them because we had instructed that we wanted whatever assistance they needed that could be offered. We wanted them to have it. And the doctor's eyes got huge when he saw Kai. And I said, well, what's wrong with him? And they were like, he's moving. I was like, he's alive? And they said, yes. And they took him and ran off with him and got him all hooked up and kind of wheeled him past me. And, his dad went over and took pictures of him and then showed me pictures and they took him away. And then it was like I just kind of sat there and waited. Coy took his sweet time. And then eventually Coy was born. He came out in a ball. He had to be resuscitated at birth. They worked on him for what seemed to me for quite some time over in the corner, and, then they wheeled him off to the NICU as well.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. They never did give you the steroids beforehand, did they? Crazy. Okay. So can you
I don't I just can't believe they were shocked that he was alive.
right.
I mean, like,
Well,
he's a human being.
to my knowledge, he was, at least at the time they were born, he was the most premature baby born alive at the hospital.
How much did they weigh?
Koi 1 pound, 1.8 ounces, and Kai 1 pound, 5.2.
My goodness.
Wow, they were pretty big for 20.
I
That's
know.
what everyone said. Then everyone thought it was further along than I was, and I said, "Well, no, I can tell you the time I got pregnant. I did IVF. Like, I know I'm 22
Yeah.
weeks and 3
Right.
days."
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So what was it like holding both the joy of Koi's survival and the grief of losing his twin at the same time?
So Kai passed after 13 days, and that was the first time I got to hold him was as he was passing. I held him for a little while, and I passed him to his dad. Um I mean, I was sad, but I was happy knowing that he wasn't gonna have to deal with the sicknesses he was dealing with, because at that point, he was the healthier twin, but he ended up, going septic. He got an infection from a, surgery that was done, and that is how he ended up passing. He was declining quickly. So I was glad that he wasn't gonna have to go through that. We were working on getting a cure for his infection, but we had to wait for the cultures to grow and see what the cultures were actually responding to as far as medication. And as the days went on to test that, he continued to decline. I was glad that he wasn't gonna have to go through that anymore.
Yeah.
And for Coy, the first time I got to hold him was the day before my birthday. It was like an early birthday gift. Um, it was really nice holding him. And yeah, no complaints.
How did you find the strength to process such a complex mix of emotions in the NICU?
I didn't really have a choice but to pretty much deal with it because Coy was directly across the hall. I regret that. I feel bad that they didn't actually meet each other per se. And I never held both of them at the same time. Coy was intubated, so he couldn't be held. And then with Kai having the infection, they didn't want me to touch Kai and then touch Coy and the uh, transfer the infection to Coy. So I never held them both at the same time.
Sweet
But
baby.
it was pretty much just you got to keep going, and so I did.
So how long was Koi's NICU stay and what was it like?
132 days, and it was really rough in the beginning. The boys were born in April. I would say from April to maybe late May, early June, it was rough. After that, there were just small hiccups here and there, but nothing too pressing.
What were some of the hardest challenges that he faced during his stay?
Coy had several during his stay. Let me see. He had his brain bleeds. Because of his brain bleeds, we weren't sure if he was going to be able to walk. He had ROP. He ended up getting injections in his eyes and eventually went on to have laser eye surgery. Just being the most premature baby on the unit, there was that. A lot of the things that were done, it, to me, some of it was trial and error because he was so premature. Mm. I think also it being a teaching hospital, sometimes going back and forth with the team and not discrediting with the residents and not trying to discredit them in their schooling, but at the same time, this is my live child. If you're trying to learn something, kind of slide over and let me talk to someone who actually has experience. I know you're trying to get experience, but I'm not willing to let you go through your learning process with my child right now. Like
Period.
some stuff, I need to talk to someone who actually knows for sure,
Mhm.
who's done this before. Like this isn't their first time.
Right.
I think that was probably the most difficult thing, finding a good group of residents and fellows that I enjoyed working with. The fellows wasn't really hard, but sometimes the residents, it was hard. And I think it was hard for the residents too, because I would ask them a question and that's a good question. I agree. What's the answer? And they they wouldn't know. And they said, well, I have to go check. And they would go off and then they have to ask someone that has more experience than them and come report back to me. And then I have a follow-up question that they don't have an answer to. It's like, how about you just bring the person to me
Right.
and you can stand there. And it's not that they were trying to be rude or anything like that. It was just like, you don't know what you don't know. And if all you can tell me is something I can read on the internet, I need to talk to someone else.
Period.
I understand that. We also had the resident team, and it was very frustrating to go through that.
That was just the hardest part. I think that was the hardest part. That and when attendings would switch. I feel like every time you would get in a really good groove and have a nice plan going, like attendings switch, and then the new attending has a different idea. And then even
Yep.
once things go out well with that attending and you get something going, then they switch again. So I was happy that I was able to get a primary attending. I had asked about. So I had someone where they pretty much had to run everything past her. Or if I started questioning things, it was okay, I want a meeting now, like this week, with her and my family and you guys. She can explain to us what's happening and her viewpoint on it before I decide to go along with this treatment plan.
Yeah, I love that because at my hospital, I definitely asked for a primary and they were like, we don't do that. So it was chaos.
I didn't know we could until it got closer towards the end of our stay, and I kinda didn't give him a choice because the one that I hated refused to treat my baby, and then there was only a selective group that weren't scared to treat her. So then I just chose a random one, and then within 2 months, we were discharged, but that was late in the stay, so I wish they would've told us in the beginning. Were there any milestones or little victories that gave you hope during those months?
They celebrated everything for Coy. I mean, like he pooped, like it was great. His eyes were open. It was great. Anytime he came off of any medication, his bottle feedings, we ended up involving the developmental specialist, and she came and evaluated him, and he was on par with almost everything for his age. Like that was a victory. Anytime his breathing support was dropped, that was great. When I got to actually put clothes on him, when they let me know that we could bring our own linen in, and I mean, like, I was carrying laundry bags from the NICU weekly because I would wash it myself. Like, I had my own special laundry bag. When you take his blankets off, just put them in my bag. Don't put them in the hospital laundry. And I
Mhm.
would take them home and wash them. I would say everything. They celebrated almost everything. He had crafts all over. His room looked like a dorm room.
So how do you feel the NICU team supported both Coy and your family through this time?
Well, Kai is his brother. They supported Kai as well. I do feel like they supported both boys. We ended up having like a pretty core team of nurses. So when both boys were alive, sometimes the nurses would appear to be best friends, and I could call one room and they would just walk across the hall and give the next nurse the phone, and she would update me on the other baby. And when Kai passed, his nurses just switched and became part of Koi's like core nursing team. I think the team was very supportive for my family and for the boys. They were happy when Koi got big enough to fit in one of those little Mama Ru swings, and they crafts they would make for him, and they used to measure his foot for me every week Like, I think it was, like, every Sunday they would do a footprint, and it would show the week that it took, and it was a chart on the front of his room, and it watched his feet grow every week. They always found something to do. When Kai passed, they made little crafts for me with both boys' handprints and footprints. I do think they went above and beyond. We even had photo shoots. Like, they literally bought backings up for us to have, like, backdrops, and
That's
had
sweet.
me and his dad get up and their dad get all dressed up for a photo shoot, and Coy had outfits laid out, and they did wardrobe changes, and they, like, sat him up and propped him up certain ways, and they did all of it, like, with their iPhones and just and our Androids, and just did that because we weren't gonna be able to have the newborn photo shoot. So, I think they went above and beyond.
You can see nurses that truly love their job.
Yeah, the nurses were phenomenal. They did all that stuff. They're so crafty too. They do so many crafts. We have the same stuff. What does life look like since Koi came home?
He came home with oxygen in a G-tube. He did not use the oxygen. He came home in August. His oxygen was gone, I'm gonna say by November, if I remember correctly,
Beautiful.
and, his was done remotely. Wasn't like a lot of back and forth to the doctors. They would just call me, I think, Tuesdays and tell me what to drop his support to, and we just worked through it that way. His G-tube was gone officially by April, where they popped it out and covered it up. It closes on its own. It's not an actual surgery. But, he had stopped using that within a few months as well. I initially switched jobs. So he came home in August. I went back to work in October, and by January, I got a new job where I worked from home. Um, so that way I could stay home with him because, he was basically a medically complex baby. Where was I taking him? It wasn't bad though. I spent a lot of time with him. He ended up starting daycare that following October, I would say, or that late October. So Coy was a little over a year when he went to daycare, and he went to a small in-home daycare. So it was only like maybe 5 kids there with him, I think.
That's good. Okay. So, what specialists or supports have been a part of his journey?
Well, let's see. When he was first discharged, he had to go to an audiologist quite often to confirm he could hear because he failed the NICU hearing test, but everyone knew he could hear. Like, he hated when his bottle warmer went off. He didn't like any of the alarms. Like, you could tell he could hear, but he didn't pass the hearing test. So he had an audiologist for a while. He's been discharged from that. He had the ROP, so he had an ophthalmologist, and he ended up getting the laser eye surgery, having the follow-ups, and he doesn't have that specialist anymore. He had the GI doctor because of the G-tube. When the G-tube went away, the GI went away. He had a PDA at one point. It was closed. They wanted him to see the cardiologist. He went. They confirmed it. That was the end of that. So that was one appointment. He still has speech therapy. That is ongoing. It started off with, I think it was technically OT, but he has a speech therapist, and that is the only therapy that he has.
Okay. Koi took off running, honey.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love that.
How do you honor the memory of his twin in your family story?
So we have birth dolls for the boys, Kai and Koi. They're the size that they were when they were born, the length and the weight. Uh, Kai's urn is in Koi's room. We typically do pictures on their birthday, and there's a teddy bear that represents Kai, and we have a T-shirt that has like Kai's picture on it. We might put on, like, we put on the bear when we put up our Christmas tree. There's ornaments that have Kai on them, so it's not like he's a secret.
Yeah. So, what has this experience taught you about motherhood and resilience?
I think for motherhood, it pretty much just showed you don't really get a chance to stop. Like, you just deal with it when it comes.
Yeah.
How do you hold space for grief while celebrating the joy of Koi's life and milestones?
I don't think I'm actively grieving, so I would say that that's helpful. I think sometimes when people are actively grieving, it's because they haven't accepted what's happening or they aren't okay with what's happening, and that's not the case for me. So I'm not holding a space for grief because I'm not grieving.
I like that. That was a nice way to put that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, are there resources or communities that helped you through the NICU and the loss?
And through the loss, the NICU I think covered Kai's cremation and his urn. There was a group that at one point was sending me, I think, like monthly boxes of diapers and feminine products and things like that. There was another group that gave these little dolls, like little pea pods, and the idea is that you wear them on yourself so that, it gets your scent on them, and then you place them in the isolette with the baby, so that way the baby can smell you while they're in the isolette. So we had that. Outside of that, there weren't really a lot of outside groups. It was basically family and friends and the NICU staff.
Yeah. What advice would you give to another parent experiencing both NICU survival and loss?
For the lost portion, I would say you have to sit in the feelings for a little while, but you can't dwell there but for so long. And for the survival, I would say to embrace the survival as opposed to dwelling on the loss. Because eventually, you don't want the survivor to have survivor's guilt or something like that. And that would pretty much be it. Like it it was all overall a big journey.
So, looking back now, what do you hope listeners take away from Kai and Koi's journey and your family's story?
I think we had a rough start to begin with the IVF, so that there's even if you think it's not possible for you to conceive, that until you've exhausted all options, you can conceive. Let's see, to pay attention to your body and to advocate for yourself and for your children. And if you think something's wrong, more than likely something is wrong.
True,
For
yeah.
sure.
How old is Koi now?
4.
4?
He turned 4 in April.
Sweet baby. Does he like I mean, I'm pretty sure he's aware of his twin brother because like you said, y'all keep his memories alive. But is he like aware of what happened?
I don't think he fully understands that he has a twin brother. And he doesn't really know he was in the NICU yet. So, like, he still has some scars from the NICU, and he might point them out, and I'm like, "Yeah, you got that, when you were in the doctor's office when you were really little." We haven't really explained it to him yet. I don't think he would really understand.
Right. I agree. Okay.
Is there anything else that you want to point out that you think that would be helpful for individuals who are experiencing the NICU, premature babies? Just any hope inside of those four walls?
I would say, the group 22 Matters was very helpful. It was a Facebook group, so that it shows the good and the bad, so to brace yourself for that. You may not see well, I spent a lot of time looking for the survivors and then, like, how bad are is are do things look once they survive? Am I expecting to have a child that's gonna have a lot of difficulties, or what's the likelihood that he'll be okay and, have minimal issues afterwards? But that group was helpful. Knowing that I wasn't leaving the hospital, you know, you can stand your ground with things like that. Make sure you have a core care team. If there are some nurses that you don't like, it is okay to not like them. It might not be them personally, it's about them professionally. If you don't want them caring for your child, then say something to someone. Same with doctors. If there's anyone you don't want working with your child, you can say so. If you think you might need to consult another hospital at some point and talk to them because they might specialize in something that your current hospital doesn't, that's okay. Uh, just doing a lot of advocating. And if you are able to step away from the workplace and focus on the NICU, I would say do that. That was something that I was able to do. And I think that it was helpful with Coy because when my maternity leave was up, it was like, well, I'm not going back until after he's discharged. And then I want to take everyone else gets 6 weeks with their baby at home. I want 6 weeks at home with my baby too.
Yes.
So I'm not going back. So I know everyone's not able to do that, but if you are, I would say that's helpful. Spending time with them. And if you do believe in breastfeeding, keep pumping. Keep a regular pumping schedule.
Yes.
As hard as it is, yes,
Yeah,
try.
it helps.
And yeah, and if you have to stop, don't feel guilty about that either.
Yeah.
Uh,
I stopped
That is
earlier than what I
best.
wanted to. Yeah, I stopped earlier than what I wanted to. I
It's
wanted to go
hard.
I wanted to go a full year, but I didn't make it the full year. But he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, yeah. Like you're never gonna be able to tell a difference between a baby that was breastfed for a year or a baby that was on formula for a year.
Yeah.
Like I I totally believe fed is best, and it's incredibly hard to keep pumping. One, going through the NICU, but two, when they come home and they have the G tube and the oxygen, and sometimes they have more. Like the last thing on your mind is pumping.
Right.
So I definitely
Yeah.
don't think people should feel bad about that.
Okay, so you did mention that you work from home now, which is a great feat for a NICU mom or, medical mom. So what do you do for work?
I do construction management full time, and I do quality control on the sites as well. And I also do life insurance part time. And I am also in school for home inspections.
Period, you do it
So
all.
I know.
there are a couple more licenses I want to get when I finish with the home inspector license, but I actively do the life insurance part time.
So how does that work? What information would you need to help me get a policy?
I would take your contact information, your birthday, if you have any children, are you a smoker? I can discuss the types of policies with you. There are two different types of basic policies, term and whole life. I know there are different things that like IUL and just all these different names. They're all the same. It's all either term or whole life policy. I would explain the difference to you, and I would advise you what I like. So, for instance, I personally like term policies. I'm not a huge fan of whole life policies. However, if that's what someone thinks that they need, and I've done my part to educate them on the types of policies, and they still want one, then I'm able to do that as well. Um, I don't want to shoot down whole life policies, but one of the things I like about term is that I'm getting it for a set number of years, like someone insures a car.
Mhm.
Like you have a car term for 6 months or a year. It's not like the whole life of the car. You have this
Right.
coverage because things change. Sometimes the amount of coverage that you need or desire changes. Also, to me, with a whole life policy, they offer you a term policy and then there's an investment on the side. If you borrow from said investment, you have to pay it back with interest. If something happens to you, your beneficiary does not get your policy and your investment. They choose one or the other. So you're paying for two things and you're only getting one. So I prefer to have a term policy and then get an investment on the side. And from there, if I decide to take money out of my investment, I just took money out of my investment and that's the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't pay back the money that you borrow from your whole life and something happens to you, it'll come out of what your beneficiary would be receiving. Like it has to be paid back that way. So
Gotcha.
you definitely have to pay it back. So, and those policies are typically more expensive.
Yeah.
So if someone was saying, I'm spending $200 a month on a whole life policy and I'm able to give them a term policy for $80 a month, you can then invest the 120 on your own and whatever you do with your investment is your business, as opposed to having them tied together.
Right.
Like you don't have an investment tied to your car insurance or your cell phone insurance. Like you don't have investments tied to any other insurance policy. So why do you want to tie one to your life? But
Period.
that's just how I see it.
No, I like that
Yeah.
explanation because genuinely I've gotten this spiel from multiple people and no one's ever explained it in a way that I could actually understand. So that was
Yeah, I
Yeah.
good.
mean, some people definitely try to get you to get whole life. They'll tell you things that you can borrow from it. But it's like you can borrow. Let's be real. If you really want to borrow from something frivolously, you can borrow from a 401k. If you have one,
Yep.
you can. You don't have to have this investment tied to your life insurance, but it just depends on what the person believes is best for them and their family. So
Period.
So I have an outside question to that. Is it similar to a 401k? Like you need to accrue it to be able to take from it, or how does that work?
for a whole life policy, yes, like it has to be something there for you to take from. What I
Okay.
also don't like is the market could be doing really, really well. Like I'm not licensed in investments, so please don't take this is a licensed investment first. I did not do my Series 6 or the SIE or anything like that. But let's say the market is doing really well and there's a return on like 30% on investments. Your whole life policy is probably capped at something like 9%, 10%, which means you're
Mhm.
accruing like only 10%, but that other 20% that's out there, the
There.
company is banking that.
Oh.
Versus if you had your own investment that you set up, you could be hitting 30%
Right.
on your own. And if you
That's
took money from it, then you just took your money from it. And if you pay it back, you pay it back. If you don't, you don't. It was yours anyway.
right.
And your insurance beneficiary will still get the whole amount they're supposed to get if something happens to you. If something
Right.
happens to you and your policy was going to pay out 200,000, but you owed 100,000, your beneficiary now only gets 100,000. Versus if you would have had this as a separate investment, your beneficiary would have got the full 200,000, and if you left them your investment as well, they would get the investment as well.
Get that on the side. Okay.
So,
I feel like I just learned so much in like
Yeah, I
5
had no
minutes.
idea.
so
So,
I
how can people reach out to you to get more information or to sign up?
people can call me or text me. My phone number is 443-858-8102. And I
Awesome.
pretty much always have my phone. Uh, and like I said, all I need is your name, your birthday, if you're a smoker, non-smoker, if you have children that you would like to cover, and if there are any other details, we can discuss them privately. But that's generally all I need to know to get going.
Okay.
Okay.
Love
And
that.
in the future, if you need a home inspector when she gets her license, hit her up.
Period.
Yes, I'm in school, so I should be fully licensed. My goal is the end of the year, but realistically, it might be like January, February that I am completely licensed in that.
I love
And then it'll
that.
be on to the next endeavor, and
Yeah.
that will more than likely be auto and home insurance.
Oh, I like
Wow.
that. Okay.
There you go. Entrepreneur. Hit up
Right.
Ashley for all
Period.
your needs.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for sharing Kaya and Koi's journey with us. Your story is a powerful reminder that NICU families often carry both incredible hope and unimaginable loss.
And the way you've continued to celebrate Koi's milestones while also keeping his brother's memory alive is such a testament to resilience and love. We know your story will bring comfort to parents who have faced similar heartache.
And to our listeners, if you have been through the NICU journey, loss, or both, we want you to know that this place is a safe space for you too. And we're always looking for more NICU families who are willing to share their stories, as well as medical professionals who can bring their expertise and perspective to this conversation.
us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Ounces and Miracles, and visit the link in our bio for all the ways to listen and connect.
And remember, every ounce
Truly is a miracle.
Bye.
Bye.